Our goal is to unravel the triple helix, sequence the precursor genome, and change the world for the better, forever. Welcome to the Phoenix Project. Introduction to the Phoenix Project video voiceover, October 2014. Hello, I'm Andrew, and I want to welcome you to Visions of the Past, a podcast all about the lore of Assassin's Creed. This is episode 72, and today we're going to talk about the Phoenix Project, what it was, what it set out to do, and what it ultimately became. Before we can get into what the Phoenix Project was in Assassin's Creed, the first thing we have to mention is where we see evidence of the project. While the project has its roots in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, it's not named until Assassin's Creed Rogue, and then showed up again in Assassin's Creed Unity, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, has a mention in Assassin's Creed Chronicles Russia, and has its final presence in the comic, Assassin's Creed Uprising. We can't talk about the Phoenix Project itself, though, without talking about the events and introduce a few of the more important things that lead directly into its creation. First off, Abstergo Industries. Abstergo Industries, which I detailed more in episode 20, is an organization that publicly aims to further human civilization. They do this by looking into the past, using machines such as the Animus. It was Abstergo Industries that allowed Desmond Miles to relive the memories of Altair ibn La'ahad. Abstergo made themselves out to be this noble organization built to help people relive their ancestral past, when in truth, they are the modern face of the Templar Order. Their motives have always been to find and collect Pieces of Eden. Pieces of Eden are artifacts with great powers. The Templars seek to use them to force order on the human race, and the Assassins fight to keep them out of Templar hands. These artifacts were left behind by an ancient race called the Isu, a race with an ancient and highly advanced civilization. They are also prominently referred to as the First Civilization or the Precursor Race. In November 2013, Abstergo discovered that the director of IT at Abstergo Entertainment in Montreal was a sage. To be brief, a sage is someone known to be a reincarnation of the Isu, not a descendant, but more of a rebirth that possesses between 5 and 6% Isu DNA. When the sage was found during an attempted murder of a research analyst, after Juno was unable to inhabit their body, he was shot dead, and the subsequent revelation that he was a sage jump-started the Phoenix Project. The Phoenix Project itself was an initiative with the aim to sequence the DNA of the Isu race themselves, a shortcut for their ambition to access Isu technology. The Phoenix Project had three main goals. Now that they knew the sages and other people with high concentration of Isu DNA exist, the first one was to discover more people like this to extract DNA from. The second goal would be to fully sequence the DNA, which then allows them to create a clone of the Isu. And lastly, using the fully sequenced Isu DNA, it would then be used to gain a deeper understanding on how the Pieces of Eden work. All of this to help Abstergo create and use Pieces of Eden. The human DNA as we know it has a double helix structure. This discovery was largely aided by the contribution of an English chemist named Rosalind Franklin. At first, she thought the DNA had a triple helix structure, which was later disregarded with the discovery of the double helix structure of the DNA that we know of today. That is, until Abstergo Industries analyzed the DNA of the sage John Standish. This is where they found a triple helix structure, as proposed by Rosalind Franklin. This means that in Rosalind's research, she somehow acquired the DNA of someone with a high level of Isu DNA during her time of research. Naturally, Abstergo kept this a secret. In late 2014, roughly a year after the discovery of the sage, the Assassins found out about the Phoenix Project and made plans to interfere with it. They started by recruiting the initiates in June, and by November, one Helix initiate worked with the assassin named Bishop. After the initiate agreed to help, Bishop told them about the Phoenix Project and the assassin's plan to have the initiate hunt for more sages that existed throughout history. On October 13th, an assassin by the name of Gavin Banks launched an assault on a facility in Paris. That facility stored samples important to the Phoenix Project. The attack ended up destroying all traces and samples of Isu DNA that they found, including the body of John Standish, the sage that was uncovered the year before, and one of the Shrouds of Eden. This attack set back Abstergo's progress with the Phoenix Project. However, this was not the end of the Phoenix Project, as Abstergo set their eyes on another Shroud of Eden that was locked in a vault underneath Buckingham Palace, sending their elite assassin hit squad, Sigma Team, to obtain it. This didn't go unnoticed, however, and Bishop sent her own team to extract the Shroud in October of 2015. Her team, consisting of Sean Hastings, Rebecca Crane, and Galina Voronina, ended up facing off against Sigma Team in the vault under Buckingham Palace. By the end of the battle, Rebecca was shot. Johanny Otzoberg, the leader of Sigma Team, was knocked out by Galina. High-ranking Templar, Isabel Ardant, was dead, and another member of Sigma Team, Violet DaCosta, managed to escape with the Shroud. Violet delivered the Shroud to Alvaro Grammatica, with plans to continue the Phoenix Project. Along with the new Shroud, Grammatica used DNA from the sage Elijah Miles, along with another piece of Eden, the Kui Noir, to fully clone an Isu body that Juno planned to inhabit. This achievement was short-lived, however, as a team of assassins and the newly initiated Templar Black Cross, Johanny Otzoberg, worked together to kill her. What happened to the Phoenix Project after the subsequent destruction of a lab in Australia where the Isu cloning was done is anyone's guess, as this is the last we have heard of the project. All in all, the Phoenix Project lasted almost 5 years, and had some pretty lofty goals that Abstergo was, for the most part, able to complete. The fact that Alvaro Grammatica was able to clone an Isu body, even though he possibly also gave it superpowers, is an incredible achievement. Though they were not able to do anything with it because of Juno's infiltration of the project, making it more about cloning a body for her to inhabit instead of for Abstergo to use it to relive Isu memories. I do have a few questions, though, about the project, based on the information that we have. We can assume, because Grammatica cloned the body, that they had fully replicated the Isu genome. If that's the case, what happened to the data? If they had all of the information saved on site in Australia, that is really poor planning on Abstergo's part. From a data standpoint, you always save a copy off-site as a backup in case of catastrophic failure. I get that this was a super secret project, but I find it highly unlikely that Abstergo wouldn't have a data center somewhere with the data on it, unless, of course, Juno erased it from the gray before inhabiting the body, which is possible. But let's assume that they have the data. What have they been doing with it the last 3 years? Were they able to use the Animus or Helix tech to view Isu memories? Does a clone have the same genetic memories as who they're cloned from? And if they have all of this genetic data, will they even be able to create their own pieces of Eden? We know it's possible for humans to create Isu-like artifacts, as we've seen that with Altair's armor and the Eagle of Shugair, but are these items made from adamant, or were they able to find a different material? I believe that they have to be made from adamant, especially the Eagle of Shugair, considering its powers. But would Abstergo be able to find any adamant in the modern day? Everything that we've seen on the Phoenix Project makes me curious about the possible future of it. Sure, it's unlikely we'll hear mention of it again, but what if Alethea and Bassam know about the project and want to do what Juno did? There is a perfect setup for Alethea to get out of the staff of Hermes Trismegistus by using a cloned body. But what about the return of their children? We know that is a big deal for Bassam to bring his family together. Could the old Phoenix Project data help him with that? Could they use the data to help create new pieces of Eden in an attempt to gain some form of control over the world? there are just so many questions about the future. I do have one problem with the Phoenix Project, though, and that's how it was presented to us. At the end of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, we're left with this big cliffhanger that Juno is manipulating things to use the Phoenix Project to get out of the gray. But come Origins, that story and almost every story before it was dropped and not mentioned. This gave the series a soft reboot into the RPG formula that we know today. Syndicate came out in October of 2015, and Origins came out 2 years later. But before Origins came out, and we knew we were getting a soft reboot, the story was picked up in February 2017 within the comic Assassin's Creed Uprising. I thought Uprising was going to fill the gaps between the games when it was released, as the first 8 issues released from February to October, with issue 8 coming out just a few weeks before Origins. Origins came out, and there was no update with the Phoenix Project, or even Juno in general. We had to wait what felt like 72 years for Uprising to start again, and give us one final arc over 4 months, ending in June 2018, to finish the story that started with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. At the time, it was frustrating to see that story end within the pages of a comic after 4 major game releases worth of content and progression. Looking back now, though, I'm just glad that the story got an ending, even though it was in the pages of a comic, and that allowed for them to give Juno superpowers. But what do you think of the Phoenix Project and how it was presented? Let me know over on Twitter at visions_AC. Thank you for joining me today. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. If you love stories about Assassin's Creed lore, please subscribe and tell your friends about this podcast. If you have any questions about Assassin's Creed or topics that you'd like me to cover, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at visions_AC. And you can find those links in the show notes below. Until next time, my assassin friends, make sure to follow the creed. And to those Templars listening, may the Father of Understanding guide you.